Welcome to the podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, James, who speaks 6 languages fluently. James, thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to share some of my experiences.
So, 6 languages? That's impressive. Can you tell us a bit about your journey? How did you start learning multiple languages?
Sure, it all started when I was a teenager. I first learned Spanish in school, and I really loved how it opened up communication with new people. Then I started learning French, mostly by watching movies and listening to music. After that, it became a bit of an addiction. I wanted to see how many languages I could learn.
That's amazing. Do you have a specific method or routine that helped you learn so effectively?
Definitely. I think one of the biggest secrets is consistency. I dedicate at least an hour every day to practice each language, even if it's just listening or reading. Another important thing is immersion. Talking to native speakers, watching shows, reading books. The goal is to make the language a part of your daily life.
I see. So it's not just about studying grammar or vocabulary. It's really living the language.
Exactly. Grammar and vocabulary are important, of course, but immersion is what makes you fluent. For example, when I was learning Japanese, I spent a lot of time chatting online with native speakers. That made a huge difference.
That's a great tip. How do you stay motivated, especially when learning a language that's very different from your native one?
Motivation is key. I set small goals, like being able to have a 5-minute conversation in the new language or understanding a song. Celebrating these small victories keeps me going. Also, I remind myself why I started, whether it's traveling, connecting with people, or career opportunities.
That makes sense. Do you ever mix languages in your head, or does it stay separate?
Yes, sometimes I mix them, especially when I'm tired, but over time your brain learns to switch contexts. I even keep little notes for each language, like common phrases or tricky grammar points.
That's interesting. Can you give an example of a strategy you use to remember vocabulary?
Sure. One of my favorite methods is associating words with images or stories. For instance, if I want to remember the French word chien for dog, I imagine a funny dog doing something unusual. It sticks much better than just memorizing the word.
That's brilliant. I've heard some polyglots also use spaced repetition. Do you use anything like that?
Absolutely. I use apps like Anki to review vocabulary regularly. It's amazing how much faster you can retain words when you see them repeatedly over time.
And what about speaking practice? How do you find people to practice with?
I use language exchange apps, join online communities, and when I travel, I always make an effort to talk with locals. Even if I make mistakes, speaking regularly is what builds confidence.
I love that. Mistakes are part of the process, right?
Definitely. In fact, I encourage making mistakes. They're the fastest way to learn.
That's very encouraging for listeners who are afraid of speaking.
Exactly. The mindset is as important as the methods. Enjoying the process makes all the difference.
Can you share some advanced strategies for learning multiple languages efficiently?
Absolutely. One key strategy is what I call language layering. It means when you're comfortable with one language, you start another in small doses without neglecting the first. For example, I practice Spanish daily, then add 15 to 20 minutes of German. Over time, Both improve simultaneously.
Interesting. So it's about managing time and attention, right?
Exactly. It's also important to mix skills: reading, writing, speaking, listening. Don't just focus on vocabulary or grammar, practice all aspects regularly.
Do you have a favorite tool or resource you always use?
Yes, I rely heavily on three things: Anki for spaced repetition, podcasts for listening, and conversation partners for speaking. I also write small daily journals in each language. It helps me think in that language naturally.
Journals sound like a great idea. So you actually write every day?
Yes, even a few sentences count. I describe my day, thoughts, or plan the next day in the target language. It forces my brain to form sentences actively, rather than just memorizing words.
I love that. Now, what about motivation for long-term learners? Some people start languages but give up after a few months.
That's a very common issue. I always tell people, focus on passion, not perfection. Find topics you love: travel, music, movies, hobbies, and learn the language through that. If you enjoy the process, it doesn't feel like studying.
That's so true. And do you have any tips for avoiding burnout when learning several languages at once?
Yes, rotate languages to keep things fresh. One day, focus on French. The next, Spanish or Italian. Take breaks when needed. Also, celebrate small victories. Even understanding a song or watching a short video without subtitles is progress.
Makes sense. Can you share a personal challenge you faced and how you overcame it?
Sure. When I started learning Mandarin, the tones were incredibly difficult. I kept making mistakes and almost gave up. Then I realized I needed to integrate it into daily life, singing along to songs, repeating phrases out loud, speaking with friends online. Over months, it became much easier.
That's inspiring. So, persistence and creative practice were key.
Exactly. Also, being okay with mistakes is essential. Mistakes are proof that you're actively learning.
Absolutely. For our listeners who want to start learning multiple languages, what would be your number one advice?
Start small, stay consistent, and make it fun. Even 20 to 30 minutes a day is enough if you focus. And don't be afraid to speak, even imperfectly. Confidence grows with practice.
I love that. Finally, James, do you think everyone can become a polyglot, or is it just for talented people?
I truly believe anyone can do it. It's not about natural talent. It's about mindset, consistency, and curiosity. If you're willing to practice and enjoy the journey, anyone can learn multiple languages.
That's so motivating. Thank you so much for sharing your secrets, James. I'm sure our listeners feel inspired to start or continue their language journeys.
Thank you. I hope so. Remember, it's all about enjoying the process and connecting with people. Languages open doors to new cultures, friendships, and opportunities.
Absolutely. Well, that wraps up today's episode. Thanks again for joining us, James. And to our listeners, keep practicing, stay curious, and never stop learning.